Hi, my name is Goldman. I'm the director and founder of Goldman and Associates. Our firm has a primary focus on family law and divorce matters here in Michigan. Today I want to talk about divorce timelines. What are the timelines that are relevant when one is filing a divorce? Well, there are two basic timelines that you have to watch, and then there are some secondary timelines. Your basic timelines are this. When you have a divorce with children, the court is going to look basically and put your calendaring of events on a 6-month timeline, which means the court is generally not going to allow the parties to divorce and conclude matters unless 6 months have elapsed from the time that you filed. Now, are there exceptions? Yes. Can the court ease off the 6 months and let you go early if everything is resolved? Yes, the court has the discretion to do so. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. Really depends on the circumstance. The fastest we've ever done one with children was 42 days, but those parties were separated for 3 years prior to the divorce, so the court did not think that there was any reason to keep these people waiting any longer. There was no possibility of reconciliation, so the court let us go early. Sometimes they'll do it, sometimes they'll don't. Now, there is a different timeline if you're divorcing with no children. The 6 months that the court makes you go through it because it wants you to really consider your position when you have children, the court doesn't have that interest when you don't have children. You're adults, you want to get divorced, get divorced. There's a 60-day waiting period. So that means that even if you've resolved the whole thing beforehand, you've sold everything, you've split everything, and then you file for divorce, you still got to wait 60 days in order for that court the court to finalize that case. Even if everything's agreed upon, there's no likelihood of reconciliation. You've sold the marital home. There's no place to live. There's no place to go back. It's over. You've burned that bridge. You're still going to have to wait that 60 days for the court to entertain a finalization motion. So that is a very relevant timeline. Now, there are other secondary timelines. So, for example, when you file a case, you will get a summons. The summons will have a date stamp on it. It's usually 90 days ahead from the time you filed. You filed in January, your summons will expire 3 months later. There's a timeline. You've got to serve that person before that summons expires. And you can't wait till the last moment. The court rules really require you to make best efforts to take that summons and complaint and put it in the hands of a process server for service as soon as possible. So you can't wait it out. Now, sometimes there are parties you don't know where they live and you need the whole 90 days to serve them, whatever, of course you can do that. But that's a very important timeline. It's an important timeline within the case once the case is already started, because if you don't meet that timeline, then what happens is the summons may expire and you cannot start a case and serve a complaint without a valid summons. So if the summons expires, you would then have to have summonses reissued in order to effectuate that service. So that is a timeline as well. But there are other timelines too. Sometimes the friend of the court, for example, will enter a recommendation. You have a certain amount of time, sometimes 14 days. There are some timelines that are 21 days, but you have certain amounts of time to react to things that the court does. You have to be very mindful of those timelines, and you have to make sure your lawyer knows about them. So if you get something in the mail, send it to your lawyer, make sure he got it too, because those timelines will be relevant just in case you want to, for example, file objections or take some form of appeal. You would need to know those. If you have any questions, reach out, and of course, we'll be glad to help you out.